After studying this module, you shall be able to know the various frameworks of team effectiveness, understand how process gains and losses enable actual team performance and potential team performance, explore the various factors within the team and organization that enhance or pose as a hindrance to the effectiveness of the team, learn about the characteristics of an effective team. Work teams and groups are composed of two or more individuals who exist to perform organizationally relevant tasks, share one or more common goals, interact socially, exhibit task interdependencies, that is, workflow, goals, outcomes, maintain and manage boundaries that are embedded in the organizational context that set boundaries, constrains the team and influences exchange with other units in the broader entity. From an organizational psychology perspective, team effectiveness is the core focus of theory and research in teams.
Frameworks of team effectiveness. Most models of team effectiveness begin where most models of team development end. Models of team effectiveness generally assume mature teams that have completed a formative developmental process. McGrath's input process outcome framework. Most models of team effectiveness are at least loosely formulated around an input process outcome framework posited by McGrath. Inputs are the primary causative processes that in turn mediate the effect of inputs on outcomes. Inputs represent various resources available to the team both internally and externally at multiple levels. Processes represent mechanisms that inhibit or enable the ability of team members to combine their capabilities and behavior. Although the small group literature has generally focused on dysfunctional processes that yield process losses, the focus of team effectiveness is on synergies that produce process gains. At a global level, examples include coordination, cooperation, and communication. Outcomes. Team effectiveness is generally conceived as multifaceted with an emphasis on both internal and external criteria. In practice, team effectiveness is broadly defined and assessed in various ways. It therefore lacks the precision of a theoretical construct. One must look to its specification for particular types of teams to determine its grounded meaning. The heuristic framework. Figure presents a heuristic framework for analyzing the effectiveness of teams. In this framework, effectiveness is a function of environmental factors, design factors, group processes, and group psychosocial traits. Environmental factors are characteristics of the external environment in which the organization is embedded, such as industry characteristics or turbulence. Design factors refers to those features of the task, group, and organization that can be directly manipulated by managers to create the conditions for effective performance. Examples of task design variables include autonomy and interdependence. Examples of group composition design variables include size, tenure, demographics, and diversity. Processes are interactions such as communication and conflict that occur among group members and external others. Group psychosocial factors are shared understandings, beliefs, or emotional tone. Examples include norms, cohesiveness, team mental models, and group affect. Effectiveness outcomes are the performance, attitudinal, and behavioral indicators. This framework moves away from McGrath's IPO model by depicting design factors, which have an indirect impact on outcomes via group processes and psychosocial traits, as also having a direct impact on outcomes. It suggests that group psychosocial traits are real group level phenomena. These traits directly influence outcomes. They also indirectly influence them through shaping internal and external processes. The framework illustrates that group processes can become embedded psychosocial traits such as norms, shared mental models, or affective states. Relative to models of team development, team effectiveness models are more static in nature. This is due in large part to the assumed causal linkage inherent in the IPO heuristic and the way that process is represented by a box. Theorists do acknowledge linear time, reciprocal linkages, and feedback loops to capture different temporal dynamics. Nevertheless, effectiveness criteria are generally treated as retrospective summaries, and designs to evaluate team effectiveness models tend to be based on cross-sectional static data. Time is relatively unappreciated in most perspectives on team effectiveness. McGrath's time interaction performance model is a rare exception in this regard. Although the IPO framework lends structure to many models of team effectiveness, thereby creating a substantial degree of similarity across models, there are also some important differences. One key difference worth highlighting concerns whether processes are caused by input factors or whether they are better conceptualized as contingencies that affect the input to output linkage. The former point of view is more representative of the small group research perspective and is a major reason why that tradition has tended to focus on process losses that stem from natural patterns of group interaction. In contrast, the later point of view is more representative of a normative approach that conceptualizes processes as mechanisms that enable the group to fit patterns of interaction to team, task design, and workflows. This later perspective is interventionist in orientation, and whether it explicitly conceptualizes processes as moderators or not, seeks to specify appropriate patterns of interaction and exchange and to intervene through training, leadership, or other techniques to improve the fit of team processes with task driven requirements to enhance team effectiveness. This naturally raises the question: what factors enable team effectiveness? Process losses, process gains, and group effectiveness. Effective work groups contribute to the attainment of organizational goals by providing the organization with important outputs. The outputs might be finished products, such as collectively typed reports, or less tangible but no less important outputs, such as satisfied customers and patients. Desired outputs also include ways of improving work processes, helping group members, and other forms of organizational citizenship behavior. A work group performs effectively at the highest level possible by minimizing performance difficulties or process losses. Also, effective work groups increase their potential performance over time by achieving process gains or finding better ways to work. Potential performance is the highest level of performance that a group is capable of achieving at a given point in time. As group performance reflects groups' capabilities, it is important for managers and work groups to ensure that the group's actual performance comes as close as possible to its potential performance. A group often falls short of achieving its potential performance. Process losses are performance difficulties that a group experiences because of coordination and motivation problems. This may be an important factor when a group's actual performance falls short of its potential performance. Coordination problems occur when the organization's activities are divided among the group's members and their inputs are subsequently combined into a product or output. Motivational problems occur when team members are not motivated enough to carry out a task. In other instances, sometimes process losses can arise from interpersonal difficulties among group members. To increase the effectiveness of a team, managers need to identify ways to improve the group's motivation and coordination to achieve process gains. Increases in potential performance that results from new ways of motivating and coordinating group members. Process gains can lead to groups being more creative and coming up with innovative solutions to problems. In other instances, process gains can be achieved by encouraging group members to be more creative and willing to take risks. Figure shows relationship between actual and potential performance, process losses and process gains. Factors influencing team effectiveness are context, composition, work design, process. Context. Teams can require a great deal of maintenance to function properly. They need management support as well as an organizational structure that supports teamwork. The four contextual factors that appear to be most significantly related to team performance are adequate resources, effective leadership, a climate of trust, and a performance evaluation and reward system that reflects team contributions. Adequate resources. All work teams rely on resources outside the team to sustain them. A scarcity of resources directly reduces the ability of a team to perform its job effectively. As one set of researchers concluded, after looking at 13 factors potentially related to team performance, perhaps one of the most important characteristics of an effective work group is the support the group receives from the organization. This includes technology, adequate staffing, administrative assistance, encouragement, and timely information. Leadership and structure. Leadership plays a crucial role in the development and success of teams. Professor Richard Hackman of Harvard University, who is the leading expert on teams, suggests that the role of team leader involves the following: creating a real team rather than a team in name only, setting a clear and meaningful direction for the team's work, making sure that the team structure will support working effectively, ensuring that the team operates within a supportive organizational context, providing expert coaching. There are some practical problems that must be resolved when a team first starts working together. Team members must agree on who is to do what and ensure that all members contribute equally in sharing the workload. The team also needs to determine how schedules will be set, what skills need to be developed, how the team will resolve conflicts, and how the team will make and modify decisions. Agreeing on the specifics of work and how they fit together to integrate individual skills requires team leadership and structure. This, incidentally, can be provided directly by management or by the team members themselves. On traditionally managed teams, we find that two factors seem to be important in influencing team performance: the leader's expectations and his or her mood. Climate of trust. Members of effective teams trust each other. They also exhibit trust in their leaders. Interpersonal trust among team members facilitates cooperation, reduces the need to monitor each other's behavior, and bonds members around the belief that others on the team won't take advantage of them. Team members, for instance, are more likely to take risks and expose vulnerabilities when they believe they can trust others on their team. Trust in leadership is important in that it allows the team to be willing to accept and commit to their leader's goals and decisions. Performance evaluation and rewards. The traditional individually oriented evaluation must be modified to reflect team performance to enable individual and teams joint accountability. Individual performance evaluations, fixed hourly wages, individual incentives, and the like are not consistent with the development of high performance teams. So, in addition to evaluating and rewarding employees for their individual contributions, management should consider group based appraisals, profit sharing, gain sharing, small group incentives, and other system modifications that will reinforce team effort and commitment. Composition. This category includes variables that relate to how teams should be staffed. In this section, we will address the skills, personality, and roles of team members, the diversity and size of the team, member flexibility, and members' preference for teamwork. Skills. To perform effectively, a team requires three different types of skills. It needs people with technical expertise. It needs people with the problem solving and decision making skills to be able to identify problems, generate alternatives, evaluate those alternatives, and make competent choices. It needs people with good listening, feedback, conflict resolution, and other interpersonal skills. No team can achieve its performance potential without developing all three types of skills. The right mix is crucial. Too much of one at the expense of others will result in lower team performance. But teams don't need to have all the complementary skills in place at the beginning. It's not uncommon for one or more members to take responsibility to learn the skills in which the group is deficient, thereby allowing the team to reach its full potential. Personality. Teams have different needs, and people should be selected for the team on the basis of their personalities and preferences, as well as the team's need for diversity and specific roles. Personality has a significant influence on individual employee behavior. Personality also influences team behavior. Many of the dimensions identified in the Big Five model of personality have been shown to be relevant to team effectiveness. Specifically, teams that rate higher in mean levels of extroversion, agreeableness, conscientiousness, and emotional stability tend to receive higher managerial ratings for team performance. Very interestingly, the evidence indicates that the variance in personality characteristics may be more important than the mean. So, for example, although higher mean levels of conscientiousness on a team are desirable, mixing both conscientious and not so conscientious members tends to lower performance, including just one person who is low in agreeableness, conscientiousness, or extroversion can result in strained internal processes and decreased overall performance. Roles. Within almost any group, two sets of role relationships need to be considered: task oriented roles and maintenance roles. Task oriented roles are performed by group members to ensure that the tasks of the group are accomplished. These roles include initiators, information seekers, information providers, elaborators, summarizers, and consensus makers. Maintenance roles are carried out to ensure that the group members maintain good relations. These roles include harmonizers, compromisers, gatekeepers, and encouragers. On many teams, there are individuals who will be flexible enough to play multiple roles and complete each other's tasks. This is an obvious plus to a team because it greatly improves its adaptability and makes it less reliant on any single member. Selecting members who themselves value flexibility and then cross training them to be able to do each other's jobs should lead to higher team performance over time. Occasionally within teams, you will see people take on individual roles that are not productive for keeping the team on task. When this happens, the individual is demonstrating more concern for himself or herself than the team as a whole. Diversity. Group diversity refers to the presence of a heterogeneous mix of individuals within a group. Individuals can be different not only in functional characteristics but also in demographic or cultural characteristics. Recent studies have examined the effect of heterogeneous values on performance and suggested that value differences may have a greater influence than functional, demographic, or cultural differences. Size. Generally speaking, the most effective teams have fewer than 10 members, and experts suggesting using the smallest number of people who can do the task. Unfortunately, there is a pervasive tendency for managers to err on the side of making teams too large. While a minimum of 4 or 5 may be necessary to develop diversity of views and skills, managers seem to seriously underestimate how coordination problems can geometrically increase as team members are added. When teams have excess members, cohesiveness and mutual accountability declines. Social loafing increases, and more people do less talking relative to others. So, in designing effective teams, managers should try to keep them fewer than 10. Work design. Effective teams need to work together and take collective responsibility to complete significant tasks. They must be more than a team in name only. The work design category includes variables such as freedom and autonomy, the opportunity to utilize different skills and talents, the ability to complete a whole and identifiable task or product, and the participation in a task or project that has a substantial impact on others. The evidence indicates that these characteristics enhance member motivation and increase team effectiveness. Process. Process variables make up the final component of team effectiveness. The process category includes member commitment to a common purpose, establishment of specific goals, team efficacy, a managed level of conflict, and a system of accountability. Common purpose. Effective teams have a common and meaningful purpose that provides direction, momentum, and commitment for members. This purpose is a vision. It's broader than specific goals. Members of successful teams put a tremendous amount of time and effort into discussing, shaping, and agreeing upon a purpose that belongs to them both collectively and individually. This common purpose, when accepted by the team, becomes the equivalent of what celestial navigation is to a ship captain. It provides direction and guidance under any and all conditions. Successful teams translate their common purpose into specific, measurable, and realistic performance goals. Goals lead individuals to higher performance. Goals also energize teams. These specific goals facilitate clear communication. They also help teams maintain their focus on achieving results. Consistent with the research on individual goals, team goals should be challenging. Difficult goals have been found to raise team performance on those criteria for which they are set. So, for instance, goals for quantity tend to raise quantity. Goals for speed tend to raise speed. Goals for accuracy tend to raise accuracy, and so on. Teams should also be encouraged to develop milestones, tangible steps toward completion of the project. This allows teams to focus on their goal and evaluate progress toward the goal. The milestones should be sufficiently important and readily accomplished so that teams can celebrate some of their accomplishments along the way. Team efficacy. Effective teams have confidence in themselves. They believe they can succeed. This is team efficacy. Success breeds success. Teams that have been successful raise their beliefs about future success, which in turn motivates them to work harder. One of the factors that help teams build their efficacy is cohesiveness, the degree to which members are attracted to each other and are motivated to stay on the team. Though teams differ in their cohesiveness, it is important because it has been found to be related to the team's productivity. Studies consistently show that the relationship of cohesiveness and productivity depends on the performance related norms established by the group. Most studies of cohesiveness focus on socio emotional cohesiveness, the sense of togetherness that develops when individuals derive emotional satisfaction from group participation. There is also instrumental cohesiveness, the sense of togetherness that develops when group members are mutually dependent on one another because they believe they could not achieve the group's goal by acting separately. Teams need to achieve a balance of these two types of cohesiveness to function well. Two possible options are helping the team to achieve small successes and skill training. Small successes build team confidence. In addition, managers should consider providing training to improve members' technical and interpersonal skills. The greater the abilities of team members, the greater the likelihood that the team will develop confidence and the capability to deliver on that confidence. Managed level of conflict. Conflict on a team isn't necessarily bad, though relationship conflicts, those based on interpersonal incompatibilities, tension, and animosity toward others, are almost always dysfunctional. Teams that are completely void of conflict are likely to be less effective, with the members becoming withdrawn and only superficially harmonious. Often, if there is no conflict, the alternative is not agreement, but apathy, and disengagement. Teams that avoid conflict also tend to have lower performance levels, forget to consider key issues, or remain unaware of important aspects of their situation. So, effective teams are characterized by an appropriate level of conflict, sharing information and goals, and striving to be open and get along are helpful strategies for negotiating our way through the maze of conflict. Accountability. Successful teams make members individually and jointly accountable for the team's purpose, goals, and approach. They clearly define what they are individually responsible for and what they are jointly responsible for.
To summarize it all, a team generates positive synergy through coordinated effort. The combined individual efforts result in a level of performance that is greater than the sum of those individual input. Input process outcome IPO framework posited by McGrath in 1964 expresses that inputs are the primary cause of processes that in turn mediate the effects of inputs on outcomes. This model is the prototype on which all other models are loosely based. We also considered a heuristic framework which explains how effectiveness is a function of environmental factors, design factors, group processes, and a group psychological traits. It is different from the IPO framework as it depicts design factors which have an indirect impact on outcomes via group processes and psychosocial traits, as also having a direct impact on outcomes. Actual group processes and performances often fall short of potential performance because of process losses due to coordination and motivation problems in groups. Process gains cause the potential performance of a group to rise and they enhance group effectiveness. For teams to be effective, careful consideration must be given to resources, the team's composition, work design, and process variables. The four contextual factors that appear to be most significantly related to team performance are the presence of adequate resources, effective leadership, a climate of trust, and a performance evaluation and reward system that reflects team contributions. Effective teams are neither too large nor too small. Typically, they range in size from 5 to 12 people. They have members who fill role demands, are flexible, and who prefer to be part of a group. Teams will be more effective if members have freedom and opportunity to do their tasks and believe that the task will have a substantial impact on others. Finally, effective teams have members committed to a common purpose and specific team goals.